111 and 110.
I heard on the news about Sector White starting Project Hero only a few days before. I remember because I had no idea what it was, but I knew the idea of another big project scared me. My friend, Ashley Cino, was a real Sector White enthusiast, so I went to ask her what it was all about, because if anyone knew about Don Rourte, it was her. She admired them and lived in practice of their scientific work. Now that may sound obsessive, but she wasn't completely crazy about them. In her spare time, she did a lot of sewing. She was brought up by her mother to start their first family sewing business. When she was 8, her mom got her an expensive portable sewing kit. Ashley grew pretty attached to her sewing, along with her research on Sector White. I don't know what she wanted to do when she hit 18, maybe work as a scientist or follow her mom's dream of that family business. I guess I'll never know. She was such an optimist. Around July, her greatest dream finally came true. She had applied to be the test subject on Project Hero many times before, but was never called back. So imagine her excitement when she got an in-person visit from Dr. Sincere Park himself to accept her application. She was so ecstatic that she couldn't eat or sleep for days after the invite. I gladly spent the whole week with her before she had to leave, because you never know how long they'll keep you in for the testing. So I wanted to spend as much time as I had with her until then. I remember she made me a nice handmade sweater before she departed. She was always so sweet that way, just constantly thinking about others. She was passionate and eager to learn, all so she can better help the ones she loved. I was sad when her time came to leave, but her bright, glittering face simply glowed too much for me to feel that bad about her leaving. I was happy for her. A week later, her parents and I finally received a letter from her. I turned the letter into the officer, but basically she wrote that she was living her dream, being surrounded by her icons and passions. She hadn't found time to sew anything, but I wasn't surprised. It was a big thing for her to be there. She couldn't give me any details about the specific tests, mostly because she didn't even know that much herself. But it was nice to read that she was doing well. She was truly happy. That was the last letter I ever got from her. Months passed and I hadn't received any news from her. We didn't even get a chance to celebrate her 18th birthday. I was getting worried. I tried writing, called, even demanded to see her in person, but I couldn't get anywhere near the facility. There was nothing her parents nor I could do, but wait. Just wait. Almost an entire year passed. It was raining pretty hard one evening, and as I was going to bed, I heard a soft tapping on my window. It was Ashley. I hurried and opened the door for her. She wasn't looking good. She was wrapped up in this strange, full-body straitjacket. It looked excessive and even partially covered her face from the collar. I immediately freed her arms, but then she snapped at me. She wouldn't let me get close again, especially to her face. Poor girl looked so pale and tired. The saddest thing was her expression. That glowing smile of hers was gone. It was hard to see her like this, but it was Ashley and she needed me. So we spent the whole night talking. She told me so many things. Apparently Sector White is using some serums, 50 through 55, as base materials for some parts of Project Hero. Those are the emotion extract serums. Supposedly, in the case for Ashley, they used the serums to enhance mental activities, which would stronger increase the bond between her and the electrical current from their machine. See, Project Hero is an attempt to give certain people artificial powers, which they could use to help ordinary people during their daily lives. Apparently, Ashley was the third participant in Project Hero, and the power they attempted to give her was direct polarized magnetism. It would help in a lot of sanitary situations, such as clearing junkyards and constructing new machines. However, she told me that the only serum that was strong enough to use on her was number 55, the serum of depression. And it really got to her. The worst thing about depression without cause is the lack of a solution. I guess it just got to be too much for Ashley as she injured herself severely. They had to restrain her from further attempts at self-harm. How could the people at Don Rourte do something like this? Apparently, Ashley managed to sneak out during the night, and that's when she met with me. That was the saddest and coldest night of my life. I wanted to get her help, but there's no way she was gonna let me do that. She didn't even want me touching her. She could only tell me about her horrible situation. At that point, I really wanted to know what was going on, so she showed me. She turned around. Her back was bare, as if that area of the jacket was burned off. Indented in her back were hundreds of needles, the sewing needles from her kit. There were scratches, but no serious wounds. She started to cry and looked at me through her one eye that I could see through her hood. She refused to move. What she told me really shocked me. She said they were alive. The needles. She said they were hungry. She said they hurt her. I didn't understand at first, but suddenly I heard a rattling of needles scathing together. Then I saw the needles on her back. They got up on their own and slowly levitated around her back, like in a slow orbit. She told me that the needles took her eye. I didn't understand, but she then explained that it happened during the tests. The scientists were trying to calm her down with sedatives, and in her tantrum, she kicked and swayed and knocked her sewing kit into the machine. The radiation on her back turned into needles. The radiation formed a bond with the needles and her spinal cord. They are affected through her nervous system, which was directly induced with serum 55, the depression. At first, they were uncontrollable. After the needles lunged at her eye, the scientists immediately sedated her and tied her in this full body jacket. She said if she doesn't feed the needles, then they attack her. I asked what she meant by that. What does she mean by feed? Apparently the needles need that depression, that pain, that sadness. They need the exact properties of serum 55. If they don't get it, they need to get it themselves by taking it from her. In order for her to avoid pain, she has to get it from someone else. She needs to witness or cause sadness or suffering in other people. The scientists did a lot of testing with this, and they tried sad movies at first, and then they lied about friends and family, cruel things. It wasn't enough. The needles needed more. So what's the most pain you could cause to someone? Maybe hurt their loved ones? That's a good start. Now, to be fair, Sector White never endorsed murdering people, but apparently killing families' treasured pets, that's not so bad. And it worked. The sight of that emotional pain was ecstasy. It didn't just subdue the needles, but it brought a counter-surge of joy to Ashley. A reaction outside of stimulus with the serum in her body. It didn't last long, however, as the drug quickly set in again. When she escaped, the last thing she wanted to do was hurt more people, but the threat of pain and the impulse were too strong for her. Earlier that night, she had nothing else to lose, so she tried it. Before she came to me, she broke into someone's home. A loud crash through the window. A man ran downstairs with a bat. He was stunned for a moment as Ashley's needles lunged and tore through his face like bullets. They retracted as his limp body fell to the floor. His limp body fell to the floor as his wife and child screamed in devastation. The sight of their loss brought so much joy that she couldn't help but laugh. She said it was by far the best she's ever felt. She didn't even care that she destroyed a family. She felt good, and that's all that mattered. She said it lasted a few hours, much longer than when it was just toys and dogs. When depression set in, she contemplated just killing herself. She knew this wasn't right, but her tainted mind couldn't focus on anything else but just killing. It was so simple to do now with these needles, so she went, and she did it a few more times that night. She even chose easy targets, like moms and dads. She even targeted her own dad. This all sounded like a nightmare. It couldn't be real. My hands were actually sore from how hard I was squeezing my chair. At that point, I was afraid of where this was going. She was serious. I've never seen her like this before. I didn't know what to do or even say. This was the first time I've ever encountered a problem I couldn't help her with. At least that's what I thought. She had the idea that destroying the person closest to her might be enough to end it all. I didn't want to believe what I was hearing. I've been her closest friend since we were 5 years old. We were family, and I loved her. She slowly stood back up. She grabbed me and gave me a big hug, unexpectedly. Her jacket was cold and wet from outside, but for a moment I could still feel her warm body under the coat. Then I got a horrifying glimpse of her missing eye under the hood, and it was all real. Everything she just told me was real. The empty void that promised torture. I pleaded with her, telling her, "Please don't. I love you." She then let go and said something that froze my heart instantly. I tried to stop her, but she darted out my door and upstairs to the rest of my family. Proud laughter as she ran off in the distance. I hear she's still at it, always hungry for more. The reports say that she'll dig her needles directly into your heart. I don't want to believe it, but she killed my whole family in front of me, just so she could be happy. Those demons at Sector White did this to her. They killed my friend and created a monster. They need to stop Project Hero immediately. My Ashley, controlled by her own passions, can never be satisfied. I've seen some reports from around town. The girl with 1,000 needles, out loose and dangerous. I don't fear for myself anymore. There's nothing left she can take from me. But I still fear her. I can never forget those haunting words she said to me that night. They triggered so many emotions, but none of them I could have ever wanted. She said,
I'm sorry, but I really love you too.